What's up guys, David here, and I've decided to make the switch from my Google Pixel XL, which I switched to about 6 months back, to the Samsung Galaxy S8. Now, I have a bunch of different reasons on why I'm making the switch, but the gist of it is there's no smartphone right now that comes close to the S8 on a hardware level. This thing straight up looks like it's a phone from the future, and while Samsung software is far from perfect, it has improved over the years and comes with its own unique set of advantages. But what I want to talk about in this video is not so much why I switched to the Galaxy S8, but why I didn't end up switching to the Galaxy S8 Plus, because I've always been the kind of person to go with the bigger model of a smartphone, and my reasoning has always been the same. With a bigger phone comes a bigger screen and a bigger battery. So when Samsung first announced the Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus, I was fully expecting the S8 Plus to win me over. But after using both phones for a while now and going back and forth between them, for the first time ever, I think the smaller model is the better option, at least for me. Now, before those of you who bought the Galaxy S8 Plus dislike this video, I know this is gonna happen anyway, I'm not saying that the S8 Plus is a bad choice, okay? If I thought the S8 Plus was a bad choice, then I wouldn't have switched to the S8 to begin with. And believe me when I tell you that choosing between the two wasn't an easy decision, as the S8 Plus still has the advantage of a bigger screen and a bigger battery. So why then? Why would I, someone who's always used the bigger phones or the bigger models of a phone, decide to give up the bigger screen and the bigger battery for the smaller S8? Well, first thing has to do with the placement of the fingerprint scanner. We all know that Samsung messed up with this placement, and on the S8 Plus, with it being such a tall phone, it's just not easy to reach. I'm not gonna be one of those people who says it's unreachable. It's not unreachable, but it isn't comfortable to reach either. On the regular S8, at least if you're right-handed, this isn't really an issue. Now, I can already see the comments about how Samsung offers alternative lock methods, and if you don't like the fingerprint scanner, you don't have to use it, but I don't really buy that argument, okay? Facial recognition is obviously insecure, and while the iris scanner is secure, I don't think it's a good option as a primary lock method, because if you're walking, if you're in direct sunlight, or if you're wearing sunglasses, it isn't going to work well, and it's always going to be a slower two-step process of first waking the phone and then bringing it up to your face. That's not convenient to do, and that's not something I'd want to do every time I wanted to access my phone. I know to some of you, the fingerprint scanner may seem like a small thing to complain about, but according to Apple's data, people unlock their phones on average 80 times a day. For me, it's easily over 100 times a day, but even if you multiply 80 by 365 days in a year and multiply that over 2 or 3 years of ownership, it adds up to over 50,000 plus minor inconveniences. And that's not even counting the misreads, okay? And trust me, there will be misreads. The fingerprint scanner on the S8, both the S8s, isn't the most accurate one out there. It doesn't compare with the Pixel or the OnePlus 3. And on the S8 Plus, it's even worse because sometimes you don't reach up high enough and it only gets a partial print. The second argument I have in favor of the S8 is, unlike the S8 Plus, the top of the screen is easily reachable with one hand. On the S8 Plus, with the new aspect ratio, the opposite corner of the screen is almost unreachable without completely having to adjust your grip. For comparison, the regular or smaller S8 screen is about as high up when you hold it in your hand as the Google Pixel XLs or the iPhone 7 Pluses, which for many people is already near the limits of one-handed use. The S8 Plus literally takes this to a whole different level. And unless you plan on using Samsung's one-handed mode a lot, I'd say that the S8 Plus is a two-handed phone. And then my third and final argument in favor of the smaller Galaxy S8 has to do with those air quotes I've been using throughout this video when I refer to the smaller S8, because while the huge display on the S8 Plus is amazing, let's not forget that the smaller Galaxy S8 has a pretty damn big screen itself. I mean, you see Samsung fanboys laughing at iPhone users because the smaller S8 has a bigger screen than the 7 Plus, but I don't know if people are taking that seriously enough. I mean, Samsung fit a 5.8-inch display, or the surface area equivalent of a 5.5-inch display, into the width of a 5.1-inch phone. That's a big deal, and I don't think people ever bought big phones because they just loved the big form factor. I don't think people bought big phones because they wanted something that was harder to hold in the hand or something that took up more room in their pocket. No, I think people bought big phones because they wanted the bigger screen and the bigger battery. And while you don't get the bigger battery in the Galaxy S8, let's be clear about that, you are at least getting a big screen. And it comes with all the advantages of having a smaller overall device. I watched a movie on both phones just to test them out, and I found the experience on the regular S8 to be more enjoyable because the difference in screen size was easily accounted for by bringing the phone closer to my eyes, but the lighter weight on the S8 made holding the phone for an extended period of time much less of a strain than it was with the S8 Plus. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that the new aspect ratio on the S8 changes everything. In certain situations, like when you're watching videos in portrait on Instagram, you're still limited to the screen's width, which takes you right back to making it feel like a traditional 5.1-inch display. And in those situations, I miss the bigger screen on the S8 Plus. Also, at the end of the day, when my S8 had 10% battery remaining, even though it was technically enough and did the job, I still found myself missing the peace of mind I had with the additional 5 or 10% I was getting on the bigger model. But when you factor in the more convenient fingerprint scanner, the easier to reach display, a screen that is arguably big enough, and all the perks you get with a smaller overall device, and the fact that it costs $100 less, I think this year the smaller S8 has the edge. But that's just my opinion, okay? It's just an opinion. What do you guys think? Which model of the S8 did you end up going with and why? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyways, that is it for me in this video. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the very next episode.